Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into everything you need to know about motorcycle helmets, and today we're tackling one of the hottest topics in the helmet world, ECE versus DOT safety standards. So you think that the Neotech I have here is pretty much the same as the one you'd find in the US stores, right? Well, actually there are far more differences than you might expect, so let's find out. First, the certifications, one of the biggest factors that drive helmet design differences. The safety standards for helmets can vary in different parts of the world, and a good example of that is the difference between the DOT standard in the US and the ECE standard in Europe. Generally speaking, ECE 2206 is considered the strictest helmet standard. It was just recently updated to be more in line with the modern motorcycle helmets, and it's also widely used outside of Europe. Now, safety standards heavily influence the way that manufacturers design their helmets. The DOT standard in the US is very different. It has fewer tests, but most importantly, it focuses on different metrics, which means that 2206 helmets do not automatically pass the DOT safety tests like you'd maybe expect, making it a bit difficult for a single version of a helmet to carry both certifications at the same time, putting manufacturers in a weird position. But let's dig deeper. These certification differences lead to something interesting: variations in helmet design. Even if a helmet looks identical, subtle changes might be made under the surface to meet different certification requirements. Oftentimes, manufacturers won't actually disclose the exact details of what they changed, but it's very likely that they tweak the details of the outer shell construction to optimize it for the two safety certifications. Still, it'd be nice to have some more transparency on this aspect. An example of this is the release of the Shoei Neotech 3. In the US, it was about 100 grams heavier than its European counterpart, despite the rest of the helmet being pretty much identical. And it doesn't end here. Let's continue to pricing. Alright, now let's talk about pricing. Have you ever noticed how the same helmet can cost significantly more in one market than another? We just mentioned the Neotech 3, which is an excellent example on this topic as well. The European version of the Neotech 3 released with a recommended retail price of €669, which translates to $745. A year later, the Neotech 3 released to the US market with a recommended retail price of $900. And to make matters worse, the US version was not dual homologated and only carried the DOT certification. On top of that, it was heavier than the European counterpart, like we just mentioned. Now, please note that the Neotech 3 is an extreme but very high profile example of how a helmet can be different depending on where it's sold. It's not often that we see pricing differences this large between regions, but it does happen. And it also happens the other way around, by the way. Let's not forget that market preferences also differ per region. If you're in the US, you probably know that double D rings are the preferred closure system. They're simple, reliable, and widely preferred. But did you know that in Europe, you're more likely to see helmets with micromatic buckles or ratchet systems? That's why, for example, the Arfa 91 has a micromatic closure in Europe and a double D closure in the States. As a result, manufacturers choose to release their region variants under a different name, instantly making it clear that there are going to be some differences. For example, in Europe, the latest Arai adventure helmet is called the Tour X5, but in the US it goes under the name the XD5. It's important to keep in mind that there also might be sizing differences depending on where a certain helmet is sold. Ever feel like you're waiting for the latest helmet to arrive in the US after seeing it released in Europe months earlier? It's not just in your head, it's a real thing. European markets often get new helmet models first. But why? Well, that goes back to what we discussed earlier, and it seems like the ECE 2206 certification process is a bit more streamlined, but maybe more important, there are far more countries that require ECE, and therefore manufacturers tend to prioritize this standard. As a result, helmets tend to release later in the States, and this happened with helmets like the Arai Tour X5 or the XD5, the Arfa 91 and the Shoei GTR 3, which released alongside the Neotech 3 in September of 2023, but is still not launched in the US. So are Euro spec helmets better? Well, I really hate to say it to our North American customers and our viewers, but the majority of the experts would say yes, they are better. Not only are they tested under stricter requirements, they also generally weigh less. They will also often be slightly more budget friendly, and they tend to be introduced before the DOT version. The differences are usually very small, but not insignificant. That's our vision, but what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below if you prefer the DOT standard and why. Be sure to head on over to championhelmets.com where you'll find the latest for the lowest price and very sharp discount bundles. And more importantly, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing these videos. Guys, buy smart and ride safe. Until next time.